Hello everyone, my dear friends. How are you all? This is your educator Ayush Jain, and today we are going to start with another topic of this particular chapter, which is known as light, and this topic is known as reflection of light. Okay, so in this lecture, we are going to discuss about the reflection of light. We are going to discuss about the mirror. We are going to discuss about the types of mirror. We are going to discuss about the principle of reflection, the theories of reflection, and various other things in this particular lecture. So, guys, first, tell me what do we mean by reflection? Basically, I told this thing in the previous lecture also that suppose this is the first object and suppose this is the second object. Now, what is happening? A ray of light is passing in the first medium, something like this, and it gets deflected in the same medium with a change in angle, and this thing is basically known as the reflection. Now, the proper definition of reflection: when a beam of light falls on any surface, a part of it is sent back into the same medium. Okay, this medium is one and this medium is also one. Okay, means the reflection always takes place in the same medium. It is not possible that reflection takes place in another medium, and if it takes place in another medium, it is basically known as the refraction. Okay, so this is known as the reflection, and that's all for reflection. Now there are various terms that I am going to tell you, and these are basically the important terms. Okay, first term is the incident ray. Suppose that this is a source of light. You can consider it as a bulb or any other thing. So suppose that it is a source of light. Now light is traveling something like this. Okay, the light is traveling something like this. Means when the light is emitted from the source of light, the path it is going to travel, it is known as what? It is shown by incident ray. Okay, it is basically shown by incident ray. Okay, so hope incident ray is clear to you. Now suppose that there is a plane mirror over here. Okay, this is basically a plane mirror over here. Now what will happen? Now the reflection, refraction, absorption, all three can take place, but we are dealing only with the reflection in this particular case. Now, if reflection is taking place, what will happen? The ray of light will go something like this. Okay, the ray of light will go something like this in the same medium itself. Now, after striking the surface of the other medium, when the ray of light changes its direction, this is known as the reflected ray. Okay, this is known as the reflected ray. Okay, so I think reflected ray is clear to you. Means incident ray was coming from the source and the reflected ray is getting reflected from the surface of another medium and it is changing its direction. This is known as the reflected ray. Now the third term, what is normal? Normal? What is this normal? Okay, so we can define normal as something when a line perpendicular to the surface. Okay, when a dotted line is drawn perpendicular to the surface at the point of incidence. What do we mean by point of incidence? When the incident ray strikes the same surface, the point at which the incident ray is striking, that is known as the point of incidence. Okay, that is known as the point of incidence. Okay, so you might be clear with the point of incidence also. Now what is the angle of incidence? Okay, what do we mean by the angle? This is the normal, the line drawn perpendicular to the surface from the point of incidence, that is known as the normal. What is the angle of incidence? The angle between the incident ray. Okay, this is the incident ray, this is the reflected ray. The angle drawn between the incident ray and the normal, that angle is known as the angle of incidence. And the angle drawn between the reflected ray and the normal, okay, the angle drawn between the reflected ray and the normal, that angle is known as the angle of reflection. Okay, means this particular angle is known as the angle of reflection. So I think you might be clear with all these terms, and these all are the important terms without which you cannot proceed further, as simple as that. Now moving ahead, now we are going to find the laws of reflection. What do we mean by the laws of reflection? The laws of reflection basically shows us about how an incident ray will move when it strikes the another surface. Okay, when it strikes another surface or when it strikes another medium, how how there will be a change in angle or where the reflected ray is going to be when the incident is incidence is taking place. Okay, Now the first point, incident ray, reflected ray, and the normal all lie in the same plane. What does this word same plane mean? Okay, first we have to understand what is the word same plane mean, because we understood what is the incident ray, we understood what is the reflected ray, and we understood what is the what is the normal, but we didn't understood what is the same plane. Suppose that there is a 2D coordinate. Okay, you know all these, that this is the y-axis and this is the x-axis. Now, if the reflection is taking place in this 2D plane, okay, just listen to my words. If the reflection is taking place in just in this 2D plane, then this is known as the plane. Means combination of y and x axis, okay, taken combinedly is known as plane. You can consider it as like this. Suppose that there is another axis, okay. Suppose that there is another axis. Let it be the z axis. Now, if you are considering the reflection taking place between the x-axis and the z-axis, it is known as known that it is told that the reflection is taking place in exact plane. Okay, this will be basically exact plane. Okay, this will be xy plane or yx plane, one and the same thing. This plane will be yz plane. As simple as that. If we consider the motion in 3D, or if we are just taking 3 coordinates, if we are just doing the analysis in 3D, then we can consider any of the planes. Okay, it might be clear to you. Now moving ahead, the next question that comes in our mind is, what happens when a ray falls normal to the surface? Okay, suppose that here we are having a plane. Okay, suppose that here we are having a plane, or you can consider it as a mirror or a plane surface. You can consider it as anything. Now, what is happening? Suppose that the incident ray is falling perpendicular to the plane. Okay, the incident ray is falling perpendicular to the plane, means there between the normal and angle of incidence, means between I and the normal, what will happen between the normal and the angle of incidence? The angle is basically zero. Okay, means incident ray is like this, normal is like this. Means the angle between them is basically 0 degrees. Okay, so because the angle between both of them is 0 degrees, means because from the law of reflection, we have learned that the angle of reflection, the angle of incidence, the angle of reflection is are always equal. We have learned that. Means because this angle of incidence is equal to 0 degree, we can say that the angle of reflection, okay, the angle of reflection will also be equal to 0 degree. Okay, because this angle of incidence is equal to 0 degree, this angle of reflection will also be 0 degree, and because this angle of reflection is also 0 degree, we can say that the ray of light will trace its own path. Means the light was coming like this, the light will go like this. The incident ray is like this, the reflected ray will also be like this. So it's simple, because we are getting the angle as 0 degree. Okay, so it's easy to understand, no problem with that. If okay, I should not discuss more on this, because we know that angle of incidence is equal to angle of reflection, and if the angle is 0 degree, the ray of light will pass something like this. This is the incident ray and this is the reflected ray, one and the same thing. Okay, now moving ahead, we are going to talk about the types of reflection. There are basically 2 types of reflection. First, the irregular reflection, and the second one is the irregular reflection. Now, in the case of irregular reflection, what is happening? The surface is basically a smooth surface. Okay, this surface is basically a smooth surface. Now, if the ray of light strikes on a smooth surface, the reflection will be a regular reflection. You can consider it something like this, that this is the incident ray, this is the incident ray, and this is also the incident ray. Now, the incident rays I is parallel. Okay, all the incident rays are parallel to each other, and we can say that this basically is a horizontal surface. Okay, there is no irregularity in it present. Okay, and because this is a horizontal surface, we can say that all normals will also be parallel. Okay, all the normals will also be parallel. Okay, normal is also parallel, and because incident ray and the normal are parallel, means the angle will also be equal in all the 3 cases. Okay, in all these cases, the angle of incidence will also be equal, and because the angle of incidence is also equal, we can say that the angle of reflection will also be equal, and because the angle of reflection is also equal, we can say that the reflected ray is also parallel. Okay, the reflected ray is also parallel, we can say that. Now, talking about the irregular reflection. Okay, talking about the irregular reflection. Now you can consider this surface as a surface which is not at all regular. Okay, this surface is not at all regular. This surface is not at all smooth. We can say that, in fact, say that this surface is a rough surface. Now, because it is a rough surface, okay, the incident ray will strike at a point, but the reflected ray, we will not at all get parallel to each other. Okay, you can see here that this is the first reflected ray. Consider, okay, this is the first reflected ray. This is the second reflected ray, and this is the, you can consider, third reflected ray. Okay, so all these three reflected rays are not parallel because this surface is rough. But a big question in our mind comes like this, that are the laws of reflection followed over here also? I will say yes, they are followed. Can you say why? Can you say why? Can you say why the laws of reflection are followed? Because we can't see, that laws of reflection are getting followed, because the reflected rays are not at all parallel. What are you saying, Ayush? Yaar? How are they getting followed? They are getting followed something like this. Suppose that this is a surface. Now we have to mark the normal parallel to the surface. Okay, this is the surface, and we have to mark the normal perpendicular to the surface. So the normal will be like this, but the angle of incidence, okay, this is the angle of incidence, this is the angle of reflection, they both are going to be equal. Okay, the angle of incidence, the angle of reflection are going to be equal. In the second case, what will happen? Now this is the striking surface, the principal axis is something like this, and this is the normal to the surface. Here also, this is the incident, this is the reflected ray, they are going to be equal. Now talking about here, this is the surface, normal to it is something like this, this is the incident, and this is the reflected ray. Okay, so there will be variations in the path of the reflected ray, but the laws of reflection are always followed, and that's why we call the laws of reflection as the universal law. Okay, this is basically the universal law. Okay, so I think that this point might also be clear to you. Now, if we are just talking about the mirror, what is a mirror? A mirror is basically a highly polished surface which is quite smooth, and it is capable of reflecting good fraction of light from its surface. Suppose that you might have seen a mirror. Yes, I can't believe that you haven't seen a mirror. If you are a girl, then it's a higher chance that you might have seen, because of doing makeup and all other things. I don't know about all that, but you might have seen a mirror. Okay, a mirror may be something like this. Okay, this is known as a plane mirror. Okay, it may be something like this. Suppose an object is present over here. Okay, this is the object. Where will its image be image form? Its image will form over here. Okay, we will understand more about object and image in this lesson itself. Don't worry. Okay, so this is object, this is the image which is getting formed. Suppose this is also a mirror. Yes, this is also a mirror. Okay, now this is the reflecting surface of the mirror. Okay, this is the reflecting surface. In this case, this is also a mirror. Okay, and this is the reflecting surface of the mirror. Means mirror can be of various types, and we are going to look towards each type of mirror in detail. Don't worry. Okay, we are going to look towards each type of mirror in detail. Okay, but I just want to tell you that what is a mirror. A mirror is something that is that reflects a particular object, and it has its back surface as polished. Why the back surface is polished? To reflect, as simple as that. Okay, if the surface will not be polished, it will not be able to reflect. Okay, if the surface is not at all polished, then it will not be able to reflect. Okay, so the back surface is basically polished by anything. It may be aluminium, it may be gold, it may be silver, it may be any other thing. Okay, but it is always polished in all the three cases. In all the three cases, it will be polished. Now moving ahead, we are going to look towards object and image. Okay, so what is an object? Object may be of various types. It may be a real object, it may be a virtual object. Let us just understand this particular thing. Okay, a real object. Suppose this is a lamp that is lighting over here, and you have kept a mirror over here. Okay, this is a lamp which is lighting over here, and you have kept a mirror over here. Now what will happen? The rays from the mirror will go something like this. Okay, the rays from the mirror will go something like this. The rays from the source will go something like this, and means what is happening? It is basically scattering the light rays. Okay, and because the light rays are getting scattered, this is known as a real object. And remember that in real object, you can change the position of the object. Okay, the position can be changed. Okay, position can be changed. Position can always be changed in the case of real object can be changed. Okay, now what is a virtual object? Now what you are doing? You are doing a simple thing that though this thing was present over here, but and you are getting the image over here. Okay, the image is getting formed over here, but you want to deal with this image. You want to consider this image as as an object. So you can consider this image as an object also, and you can name it as virtual object. Okay, this can be named as virtual object. And in the case of virtual object, the rays are incident on a point, as you can see from over here. Okay, they are basically incident at a point. Okay, this is the virtual object. Okay, and similarly you can interchange them also. Okay, if you are calling it as a virtual object, then you can name it as a real image. Okay, it will be considered as a real image. And similarly, you can consider this as a virtual image also. Okay, this can be considered as a virtual image. Okay, so I think that this point is clear to you. What is an object, what is an image, what is real image, what is virtual image, what is real object, what is virtual object, blah blah blah. Okay, so I think this thing is clear to you. Now let us just read the definitions of image. The real image. The real image is an image formed by the actual convergence of the rays of light. Okay, the actual convergence of the rays of light is taking place over here. That's why we are calling it as a real image. Virtual image which only appears to the eye, be formed by the rays of light, and it can't be taken on a screen. Okay, the image which can only appear to the eye but can't be taken on a screen, it is known as a virtual image. Okay, so I think these points may be clear to you. Now the last topic for the day, this topic is named as types of mirrors. So mirrors can be basically of two types. What are they? They can be plane mirror, they can be spherical mirror, they can be only these two. Okay, so a plane mirror is what? A plane mirror is something that is where there is no inclination, where the surface is horizontal or maybe vertical or inclined, but not at all curved. A plane mirrors may be something like this also, no problem in that. Okay, plane mirror may be something like this also, plane mirror may be something like this also, not at all problem. But the plane mirror is not at all curved. Okay, the plane mirror is not at all curved. This may be studied in spherical mirrors. Okay, this kind of mirrors may be studied in spherical mirrors. What is a spherical mirror? A spherical mirror is a mirror in which, suppose that you are taking a ball. Okay, suppose that you are taking a ball, and what are you doing? You are cutting the ball into two parts. Okay, you are cutting the ball into two parts. Now by cutting the ball, we can see that there are two spheres that are coming to our picture. One sphere is like this, one sphere is like this. What you are doing in the first part, what you are doing, you are just coloring this particular portion, or you yes, you can say you are just coloring the this particular portion, or you are just polishing this particular portion. Now if you are polishing this particular portion, what will happen? It will be a convex mirror. Okay, it will be a convex mirror, means the ray of light will pass from here and the ray of light will diverge, and that's why we name the convex mirror as the diverging mirror also. Okay, this is known as diverging mirror also. In the second part, what are you doing? You are just polishing this particular surface. Okay, you are just polishing this particular surface, and if we are just polishing this particular surface, what will happen? The ray of light will pass from this particular place and the ray of light will converge in this case. Okay, the rays of light will converge in this case, and that's why it is known as converging mirror. Okay, so I think this all things are clear to you. We are going to study in detail about plane mirror. We are going to study in detail about the spherical mirrors. Not to worry. In the next lecture, we are going to discuss about the plane mirror. A huge lecture will be there, and in detail, we are going to discuss about all the properties of the plane mirror. We are also going to look towards certain numericals, which are again based on the plane mirror, and we are going to look towards various other things also. Okay, so I think that's all for today. Thanks for watching, and please do like, share it to your friends, and subscribe to my channel Educata Accomplished Learning. Till then, see ya, take care, bye bye, and we will meet in the next one.